Brownies. Here we go. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Yeah, this for my dogs from the east to the west side. You rockin' brown and orange with me, baby. Let's ride. Represent the land, let them know. Tell them, here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Yeah, here we go.
Everybody, welcome to another episode of the Here We Go Brownies podcast, coming to you live from Cleveland, Ohio, 7 p.m. here on the East Coast, with our good friend Ray Showdog Prisby joining us from the YT, Youngstown, Ohio. Ray, how's life treating you?
What's up? Hey, life's great, man. It's starting to warm up a little bit. I almost took the car out today.
Well, I know you would not want to, well, you're very particular about your car, but I wouldn't even, well, I guess it was actually a pretty nice day today. It wouldn't be that bad to take it out and at least warm it up and take it around the block. Ray, we got a great show tonight. Browns legend John Wooten is going to join the podcast tonight. Honored and humbled for him to share some great stories of his time with the Browns and what he's done in life after leaving the field, obviously working and having 2 Super Bowl championships and other organizations in those front offices. So it'll be interesting to get some of his perspective on those years, as well as his time with someone that you got to meet near and dear, that being the legend Jim Brown, that actually was able to come to your home and grace it and show you all the wonderful things that happened that day for you. Ray, there's a lot going on in the NFL. This is kind of a little bit of quiet time. Obviously, you have no games this weekend, which makes sense, right? Because you have the whole entire kind of week before the Super Bowl. You've got a couple of the Shrine game, the Senior Bowl, all those things that are happening. We'll obviously get into that in a little bit later after our interview with John Wooten and talk a little bit about what's going around on the league. It's going to be very interesting this offseason for the Browns. They got a lot of question marks they're going to have to take care of when it comes to the quarterback position. Clearly, that's going to be a big focus for this team going into the offseason. And, of course, also you're going to have to find some depth for that offensive line, what you're going to do at the running back position, some other key positions, because, that Browns window is kind of closing. We know that. This is probably the next 3 to 4 years. If they're going to make another run at this, they really got to start doing that sooner than later, right? We kind of know that. So it'll be interesting to see where the Browns kind of go here, because they've got a lot of decisions. We've talked offline that this is a pretty important offseason for the Cleveland Browns, and probably could be one of their most important drafts. I hate to say it, 8 to 10 years, because of the decisions they're going to have to make as an organization, and these decisions that are going to affect the franchise for years to come. And by the way, you have 11 picks now. You may have more after the draft day starts. So the Browns got a lot of holes to fill and a lot of things to do when it comes to the organization. But Ray, why don't we go ahead and introduce Browns legend John Wooten to the show, and let's catch up with him. Let's introduce him. All right. John, how are you doing, sir?
Yeah. Okay, I'm fine, Dustin and Ray, and it's always great to talk to Clevelanders, and I consider the whole Northeast Ohio Cleveland, right?
Even Youngstown? No.
Yeah, even Youngstown.
By the way, I was backstage. I heard that crack when I wasn't what you said about Youngstown, but I won't hold it against you, because I know you don't have nothing but love for us down here.
Listen, some of my best friends are out of Youngstown. In terms of not players we're talking about, but just people that love the Browns, and just a great place, from that point.
It's true.
Glad to be with you guys talking about Cleveland Browns.
Yeah. So, John, I'll kick it off. Obviously, I had the honor and privilege to see you at Jim Brown's eulogy about a year and a half ago down there in Canton for Hall of Fame weekend. Ray was there as well. I know Monique asked you to be there on behalf of Jim Brown and speak. I think you had some very poetic words, and you even said, well, you're making this real rough on me. I got to go after all these great speeches. So I thought that was really interesting. You're like, I got to go after all these people, and now I got to talk. But, my first question for you is, Ray has gotten to meet him personally. I've only met him one other time in my life. We know what Jim Brown, the human being, did on the field, off the field. I know you guys were very close. You guys even roomed together when you were with the Cleveland Browns. I guess I'll start with, what was your favorite memory during football with Jim Brown? And then what was your famous memory outside of football with Jim Brown for our viewers?
If probably and first let me just say this, Dustin. Jim was a top quality leader of men, very, very unselfish, and I came in 59. Jim was already there, had already established himself as a star in the NFL. But the thing, I guess, we were playing down here in Dallas, and we ran what we call a flip 9. And my job was to get out in front of that and try to lead the way. And it was inside the 20 going in. And when we got out there, it looked like the whole Dallas Cowboy, all of them were out there. Cornell, Renfro, the linebacker, Lily is chasing me, and Jim I just lowered down my shoulder and just tried to run through the whole thing. And Jim almost, when I saw the tapes touching the ground, he stayed almost on the ground, but got in for a touchdown. And on the way back to the bench, he said, Woots, you know what made that play go? And I said, I have no idea. He said, when we got out there, you didn't give up. You said, hey, we're going to bust this thing. And when I saw you do that and hit that, and it was almost like a huddle out there, and we hit through that thing, and he went into the end zone with ball in his left hand and touching the ground with his right, after you saw the film. But that's the kind of guy that's the kind of guy that Jim was. And in addition, and I tried to say it at his eulogy there, when he said to me, Woot, we cannot stand on the sideline in this movement. We're not going to march. We're not going to sit in, but we got to be in the fight. And that, of course, brought on the organizations, the NIEU, the Negro Industrial Economic Union, the BEU, and, of course, today it's the Fritz Pollard Alliance. In terms of trying to make sure that we as football players are participating in our community in which we live. And that you saw that with the the Cleveland Summit in 67. Yep. There's a historical marker. Yes, that's exactly right. That's the group. There's a historical marker right there at the stadium representing that summit. And it's what makes Cleveland different. And I know everybody said every team has its own great fans. But you guys know There's nothing like the Cleveland Brown fans.
Nothing like it.
When we lose, they hurt. They hurt. They hurt just like we are. They're not mad and calling guys names and all that. They are bleeding real blood. That's what makes Cleveland different than anything that we've ever seen.
Ray, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say he's absolutely right. And I had the picture queued up, and you brought it up for me. I had the Cleveland Summit picture with a young John Wooten in it. I had the picture queued up for you, and then you brought it up. I was like, oh well, hey, this is perfect. This is perfect timing.
Listen, the thing that made that so realistic and so real for us is that if you go back and remember, the champ had in 1965 had come in to celebrate Jim's leaving, the Cleveland Browns.
Right.
And he had done that as a favor to us. And now here we are. Herbert Muhammad had called Jim and said that the champ needed our help, that they had taken away his championship and his passport. Remember, he had beaten Sonny Liston in '64.
Right.
And now they were taking this away from him. And Jim calls and says, hey, Woot, get the guy. Jim and Ali and all of them were living out on the West Coast. He said, get the guys together. The champ needs our help. And those guys, Ray and Dustin, what made that thing so meaningful to me to this day. There's not one guy that I call that, well, Woot, I'm not sure I should be in this. Or secondly, who's going to fit the bill for me flying in and staying and so forth. All they said is, what time? I said, Saturday evening. Where we going to stay? The Hilton there on 9th and Euclid back in those days.
Well, it's funny you say that. I live on about 11th in Euclid, so I kind of know the area of where you're talking.
Right. And that's the way it went.
So let me ask you this. So interesting having you on tonight. So obviously you're a Colorado Buffalo. A lot of folks probably don't know that you went to the University of Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the not so great season that the Cleveland Browns have had, uniquely, the Cleveland Browns are at number 2 this season. And obviously Hunter is there, and as well as Shedeur Sanders are going to be both Colorado Buffaloes. I'm just curious, what do you make of those two players? And if you were in the Browns seat, right? Because you like I said, you were director of player personnel we'll get into that in a little bit at other organizations. When you look at the tape, are these two people that the Cleveland Browns should take a long, hard look at number 2?
No, they just take a very short look at it and pull the trigger.
But okay, on which one? Sanders or
no? You got to take the quarterback.
Okay.
As great a player as Travis Hunter is an exceptional player, but in the National Football League, you win with the quarterback. Look at where you are right today, as it relates to Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen,
Jaden Daniels, with Washington.
Jaden Daniels, don't leave Joe Burrows out of this mix.
Yeah.
Don't leave Joe Burrows. This kid got all the tools you need to make Cincinnati a winning team. And the thing that is so important, and I, as you know or may not know, Deion Sanders coached here in high school. So we've seen Shedeur Sanders since he was maybe 10th grade in high school, and he can do it all. He's right up there with the quarterbacks that I just mentioned. It is no question that he is the best quarterback in this college draft. He can do it all. He can throw it and so forth.
So you've got to spend some time with him, not even as an adolescent, but as an adult, it sounds like.
Well, I did something and I told my wife I couldn't believe this. When Deion got the job at Colorado, I went to the spring game. As much as I hated spring ball when I was in college, I hated spring ball. And I told her, I said, now you got to get ready because even though this is April, if that Chinook comes over the mountains, we're going to get snow. And lo and behold, here we are in April sitting at a spring football game and it's snowing like crazy. But I went there because I wanted to say to Deion that I trusted him, I believed in him. I was happy to see him make the move to Colorado. He has certainly done it, but those kids can play. They're ready to play right now. They're top quality people, but if you got to pull the trigger, you got to take the quarterback.
And you're right. It probably was an honor for you to go there, being your alma mater, and also knowing, Shedeur as a kid in Texas and all that. Ray, go ahead. You got another question, Ray?
No, I was just going to ask him. Do you like Shedeur better than the Miami, Florida quarterback, Cam? Yeah. What's his name?
What are you talking about? The kid from the University of Miami, Eric something?
Yeah.
No, his name is Cam.
Cam Morton. Cam Ward.
Cam Ward. Yeah.
Cam Ward. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah. Shedeur is right at the level right now with what these kids that I just named you, the five, including you got to make sure that you put Lamar Jackson in that mix. He's right there with those guys. He can do it all. He can run. He can throw it with accuracy. And, Deion has done a heck of a job of, as a father and as a coach, knowing what the NFL is, he has really prepared these guys to come in and be a factor. But I wouldn't hesitate to take Shedeur.
So let me ask you this. So you're right. In today's NFL, that dual threat quarterback that can run and beat you with his legs or throw, Shedeur is that guy, right? He can throw the ball. He can run. He can do those things.
Mark, the other Dustin, you're looking at it. See, you're sitting there too, right? Tennessee, you got to be careful. Otherwise, Tennessee, they're not going to take it. They have already said they're going to stay with the kid that they got out of Kentucky, I think, or somewhere down in there.
Correct. And, so they may go with
and they could very well take Travis Hunter. If I'm not going to take Shedeur from Tennessee, I would take Travis. Now that helps Cleveland because you don't want them trading out and letting someone like the Raiders come all the way from back there to come up to get Shedeur. Now, Deion probably is not going to want to like him going to Cleveland because he feels that Cleveland is not a championship ball club right now. But that's what makes Shedeur what he can be. See, when they made the trade for
Deshaun,
it didn't bother me because Deshaun was playing at the kind of level that all these young kids are playing at right now. Deshaun was at that level. So, but then the problems and all the different things that have happened, you got to make your move, but you got to have, if you're going to win in the NFL, and Paul Brown said it to me many years ago, you got to throw the ball. You got to throw it. And I know even though we had Jim, but when we go back and look at when we won, Frank Ryan threw 3 touchdown passes. Jim had 100 yards, but Frank Ryan threw 3 touchdown passes to Gary Collins that day. You got to throw the ball in the NFL. I'm looking at that picture, right? Yeah, I'm looking at that picture.
Yeah, and Gary Collins was I believe the MVP of that game because of those 3
exactly touchdowns. The MVP, right? Yeah.
So, obviously you've had a very unique career, right? Played in college, played for the Browns, was a year at Washington, but then you had a very successful career outside of playing in the front offices. So I want to start with your time in Dallas. Obviously, again, coaching legends there while you were there. I want to talk a little bit about your time there. Then talk about your time at Philadelphia and your time at the Ravens. And just if you want to share a little bit of that, and then I have a question about the Ravens when we finish up. But just share a little bit about those unique experiences that you had working in those front offices as an executive in some capacity.
Well, as you pointed out, I've never had a real job. And I tell people that all the time. I've been blessed. I never had a real job, but my real blessing came when Tex Ram called me and asked me if I would be interested in coming down. I was an agent, is what it was. From 68 to 75, I'd been an agent. And I get a call from Tex Ram one night, and he says, John Wooten, I'd like for you to come down and visit with us. And I said, Mr. Ram, I'm not interested in being a coach. I don't have the patience to be a coach. And I've been around football long enough to know I can't do it. He said, no, we're talking front office. And I said, no, I don't know anything about front office. And he says, all I'm asking, come down, let's sit down, spend 2 or 3 days with us, see if we like each other. We can teach you, we can train you how to put together a team, how to do this. And they did that. All 3, Tex, Gilbrandt, Coach Landry, allowed me to come in and sit in meetings in the back and just listen to what would be it coaching meetings or whatever. That allowed me, and when Jerry Jones came in '89, and he, as they say, we're going to go in another direction. I called my good friend Modell and ended up in the league office. And as much as I love football, the league office wasn't giving me what I needed. So I fortunately left there and went down to Philadelphia.
Philadelphia?
Yeah, Philadelphia. And Philadelphia opened up to where I wasn't the general manager, but I was the senior vice president of player personnel, which meant I ran the draft. I was involved with the coach who we were going to hire and so forth. And we made some very good trades and movement there, drafted well, hired Ray Rhodes to come in. Ray Rhodes had been a player in the league and coached out at the 49ers, and then went with Mike Holcomb to Green Bay. And we knew what he was doing in terms of players that he was developing with those teams. We got him as a head coach in '94, Sean Payton, all those guys came in we brought them in with him, Emmett Thomas and all that group. We won there, and then Modell called in '98 and said, hey, we're down here in Baltimore, come down here and work with us. And I said, is this okay with Ozzie? And Ozzy got on the phone and said, "Hey, man, come down. Let's put this thing together." And fortunate, we had won at the Cowboys. We had won at Philadelphia, and the good Lord opened up the doors, and we got Brian Billick with us at Baltimore, and we won there. I meant Super Bowl, I'm talking about. So that's, it's the way that we went. And, go ahead, Desmond.
No, I was just say it's very interesting. So a good friend of our program, you probably know Hanford Dixon.
Oh, yes, right.
So him and Ozzy are like best friends, right?
Been the best of friends, yes.
Yeah, and so we've been joking. I call him now, and he'll be like, "Has Ozzy called you yet after that loss?" He goes, "No, we're stubborn. One of us is just going to break at some point and call each other because he knows we're going to talk about the game." But they have a really special relationship, and so I get a little bit of insight, to their special relationship that they've had since playing. So it's interesting that is this okay? I mean, you had that respect for Ozzy to ask, "Is this okay with Ozzy?"
No question, no question. Yeah. And the thing about it is, as great a tight end as Ozzy was, a Hall of Famer, of course, he's even a better general manager, because the general manager is has to be the head of the organization. He's the guy that has to pull everything together.
Right.
Coaching and business and operations and everything. And Ozzy allowed us to do that. He allowed us to come in there and sit down with him and talk about deals we need to make, trades we need to do, and we got it done. And of course, speaking of Youngstown, Carmen Policy, he told Billy, either you come get on the plane and go back to Cleveland with us or forget Cleveland. And, Billy, they had made a commitment that he would come and talk with us. That's all we asked. Come talk with us before you make your move to Cleveland. But Carmen, he one of those fast guys to pull the trigger, so we got to be thankful to him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so, obviously you got to be around a lot of winning football. And we talk about on the show, losing cultures are hard to change just as winning cultures are hard to change in any organization you're in, work or football. You bring up a really good point about Shedeur Sanders has been around high excellence, really high competitiveness from when playing high school to college ball. And he had his dad as his role model, who played arguably, if not one of the best at that position in the National Football League.
No question. Right.
And so I think when you bring up a really good point, that because of that pedigree that he had to live up to those standards with his father and make him proud, and show how good of a true athlete he was, maybe sometimes, like you say, if you're the Browns and you're sitting at 2 and Shedeur Sanders is there, it's a no doubt thing for you, because you're like, he'll bring in that leadership. Men will surround themselves with him, and he'll take them and lead with them. And there's a lot to be made of that. Those guys that just have that energy when they're in the room. Jim Brown was that guy. He was a leader of men, like you said. When he came in the room, he demanded that kind of respect. And I think, there's a lot to be said about when a guy can walk in a room and demand that kind of respect.
I got a quick question.
Go ahead, Ray.
Quick question, Mr. Wooten. So you remember where the faculty, the team, you guys would play like high school faculties and stuff like that?
Basketball.
I can remember as a young child in Youngstown, Jim Brown driving down in his red caddy, and I'm almost positive there was a John Wooten with him. Now I can't be sure, but I'm almost positive that was you that was with him.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We that is what made the Browns and the state of Ohio different. We would go into the high schools and play the faculty and raise money for the different organizations there to school and just interact with the, because these guys were teachers and all that, and we were athletes and just had a great time. And and that's part of the giving, that you see in the league today. As you get ready to watch the honors here, or what I guess the honors will probably be a week from tomorrow night. They're, well, the biggest award other than the MVP is the Walter Payton Award for guys who are out working in the community, they're making it a better place to live, and just showing athletes what should be their commitment to not only giving their community a winning team, but also giving them being a part of their community.
You guys were like the Globetrotters back then. I mean, everybody showed up for those games.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is, we were probably playing anywhere from 40 to 50 games in that off season.
Wow.
And a lot of it, in all fairness, was that, hey, that put playing. We generally average $50 to $75 a game. We weren't making $1 million and $3 million and $5 million. We had to have all-season jobs and everything else back in those days. But we had a great time.
I was going to say, obviously, you played with a lot of greats, John. Who do you think the toughest player in the NFL that you ever had to go up against on defense? All the teams that you played, who was the toughest guy that you ever had to line up across from?
Physically, it was probably Big Daddy Lipscomb.
Ooh,
Big Daddy.
Yeah, that was a handful.
Would probably be one of the guys. The quickest would be Bob Lilly. The toughest linebacker probably would be Butkus, Nishke.
Oh yeah.
What about those guys? What about those guys out in LA, the Rams? Any of those guys come to mind?
Well, Rosa Greer was tough, and Merle Olsen. But
right.
As I said, when you look at Butkus and Nishke, those guys, and then you look at Big Daddy, Big Daddy is lucky he didn't kill somebody with that head slap that he had, which is no longer legal, right?
Right.
It was legal,
right.
I mean, this guy, and of course, that's when he was with Baltimore and the Steelers.
Right.
We went against him, but you would have to put them in the group, as as I had to compete against. Go ahead.
Yes, John, I was going to say, we got the Super Bowl coming up. Everybody's not excited about this matchup because it's the Super Bowl of 2 or 3 years ago. Any allegiance? Are you rooting for one team or the other? Obviously, you worked for the Eagles. Are you rooting for the Eagles, or are you rooting for the Chiefs on Super Bowl Sunday?
Well, I like them both a great deal. I love what Andy Reid has done there at Kansas City. He built a real legacy that goes all the way back. You remember Kansas City was the same people that started, way back. They were here in Dallas, and Lamar Hunt, so that he could get in the NFL, moved them to Kansas City. That's who they are. And you got to love both of the quarterbacks are outstanding, but all four of those quarterbacks in the conference championships were on point. Allen and Jaden Daniels were top quarterbacks as well, and that's why I was pointing out if Cleveland gets a chance to take Shedeur now, Dion probably going to holler about this. You know, he's going to say, well, no, I don't. I'm like Peyton. I didn't want my kids. But by the same token, you know, somebody got to stand strong and say, hey, we're going to build this thing back to what it used to be. You know, I mean, the Browns got a great history. You guys know this better than anybody. You know, we have a great history, and we got to get that back.
Well, and you're a part of that, right? You're a part of the reason people can learn about the '64 NFL championship team. Ray and I was talking about that. You know, just December 27th, just about a month ago, was the anniversary of the 60th anniversary of the Browns championship. I have one quick question, and then I'll have Ray get you out of here on the last one. You know, everybody that watches our show, they're young, grandkids, children, older folks. What would be a memory that you could share about Jim Brown that somebody may not know? That would be something that, you know, the general public wouldn't know about Jim, or a fun story that might get a chuckle or something like that. But what would be a fun story? By the way, we've had Greg Pruitt on and some of these other guys, and they always have their fun little stories. You know, he's very competitive. They have a golf story about him. But just curious of a fun story that you could share, because obviously you guys bunked together, you know, on the road and spent a lot of time together. But what's a fun story that you could share about Jim?
Well, this may not be as fun a story, but this is one of the real things that showed the greatness of Jim Brown. Go back and look at 1963. We get off to an 8-0 start. Jim, that's the year he set the record at 1863, 1,863 yards. If you go back and look at those games, we were winning those games pretty handily in the third and early fourth quarter. Jim, where most guys, I got a chance to break 2,000, let me keep going and so forth. He would say to Blandon Collier, you know, Blandon had taken over for Paul Brown. Blandon, put Charlie Scales in. Blandon, put Kenny Webb in. Let them finish out the game. That is way more important to the way I remember Jim Brown in terms of what superstars are to be as leaders. You superstars of your team got to be your leaders. And that's the kind of leadership that you want. You know, those are the things that, as I said, you know, Jim, he had such great leadership at practice. He was going to lead the runs, who's going to run down all the way down the field with me, you know, all of those kind of things. You know, let's work together. We got a chance to do something here. And, you know, remember, in the 64 championship game, the Colts were 21-point favorite. And we beat them 27-0. Go ahead, Ray, what do you got?
So, as I say, if they had sports betting back then, a lot of people would be rich in Cleveland because they would have all picked the Browns because they're so loyal, and they would have had the bet. Go ahead, Ray.
So I was doing a little background on you prior to the show because I like to come prepared. So somebody said, well, you know, look up the word bodyguard in the dictionary and see what comes up. So, and that's what I did. I Googled bodyguard, and there wasn't a definition. It was only a picture. This is the picture that came up.
That is a great picture. Two of the greatest players the Browns have ever had.
That Jim Brown ever had, right there, 66 and 60.
Well, we had a great time. We had a great time, and it was a great time for us as a people. We were moving forward in this country. And let me just say this to all of us everywhere. We got a great country. We got to just pull this thing back together and start loving each other and trusting each other and caring about each other. And that's where we are right today. And because of you guys and because of the Browns, I have been blessed. As I said, I never had a real job.
Blessed and highly favored.
Yeah. The one thing I was going to say, John, that stood out at the eulogy, that you kind of gave it as a speech to all the kids that are out there in the organizations. You brought up a really good point that every single NFL team, no matter who you're drafted to, has an engagement department, a community engagement department. And if you have something you're very passionate about and you want to give back to your community and be a part of your community, go in there, have a conversation, and be a real difference and change in your community. And I thought that was a really great message.
And you see that all around the league, all over the league. They're really doing a great job in that, and that's very meaningful. But anyway, guys, stay on in. Let's hope come April that the Cleveland Browns will take Shedeur Sanders and we'll all be back on the track again.
There you go. Hey, I'm not going to be opposed to that, especially if we get to lift the Lombardi Trophy someday. John, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate you coming on. Appreciate you making the time for us. And go Browns.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ray. You guys got my number. Holler at me whenever you can. Appreciate it.
All right.
Good night.
Have a great night.
So let everybody know that John Wooten is a Cleveland Browns forever. Okay?
I love it.
Thank you, guys. Right. Good night.
Right. See you later, John.
Thank you.
Good night. Wow, what a great interview. Man, the history.
That was good.
Yeah. While we're doing that, let's get some of our sponsors mentioned. By the way, guys, if you, first and foremost, what a great interview. But first and foremost, Stadium Mustard, guys. If you don't have it in your cabinet, if you don't have it and it's not in your grocery store, go get it today. That's right, Stadium Mustard. You can purchase it online, stadiummustard.com. If you're anywhere else in the country watching our show today, you can get it. It's great anywhere you're at, anytime. Put it in your kitchen this weekend for getting ready for the big game. If you're having people over and you got hot dogs and hamburgers and pretzels or whatever, go ahead and get that. Also, guys, if you haven't, if you're hungry, you know what also is really good? City Barbecue. That's right. City Barbecue is delicious. If you're looking for something to get ready for that big game come Sunday, the matchup that we talked about with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, call in, cater some City Barbecue, 6 Northeast Ohio locations. That's right. You can get it pretty much anywhere in Cleveland, 6 Northeast Ohio locations. But also they do catering. If you got some things you want to do, you got a wedding, a business function, they're great to do that. Ray and I have been to those restaurants. We have some great ideas coming up that Ray and I will let you know about in the future. City Barbecue, but a great partner here in the community. They have amazing sauces as well. You can pick up some of their great barbecue sauce while you're in there. Party packs, but anything. Go check out City Barbecue here in the greater Cleveland area, 6 Northeast Ohio locations. Also, guys, that's right. The Browns, for the first time in 8 years, they're on the road. That's right, on the road to London. So, guys, go use the code Brownies. That's right, all cap Brownies, to get $100 off your deposit to go to London. Use the code Brownies at truefantravel.com to get that $100 off deposit. Who doesn't like saving $100? Use our code Brownies to go do that. But they're also going to do a bus trip to Detroit, which will be kind of fun. And yes, we're going back out to Vegas. The Cleveland Browns will be in Vegas ×2. So look forward to some great things. But hey, also go on their site. They have great trips for baseball, basketball. They do it all. Horse racing. They do a bunch of different trips. So go check them out. That's truefantravel.com. Ray, let's get into it a little bit. We've got the NFC and the AFC championship game are behind us. I feel for my brothers and wonderful women that are just down the lake. I really was rooting for the Buffalo Bills to get into the Super Bowl. And I'm not going to say the refs had anything to do with it, but there were some questionable calls in that game late. Here's the thing, and we talked about this, and this is why the Browns draft or traded for Deshaun Watson. Unfortunately, when you have great quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, you name it, there's always the the door says this is where Patrick Mahomes lives. You have to come into the house to get to the other side, and it's a real tough task. If you're in the AFC, sometimes I kind of wish the Browns were in the NFC because I'm like, well, we might have a path. There might be a path over there, but as long as Patrick, and here's the problem. These guys are all in the same era. And I found this watching some other sports things today. That's the other problem. Lamar and Josh and Joe and Patrick all came in together at the same time. So you're also going to butt heads with all these same guys. And until there's a crack or a mistake, unfortunately, the king is still going to be at the top of the mountain, and that's Patrick Mahomes. I mean, like it or love it, I kind of feel like it's deja vu. I kind of felt that same way with Tom Brady. Like you had to get past Tom Brady and New England to get to the Super Bowl. And a couple of times, Peyton and Eli got through that, right? Because, there was a crack. And I think that's what it's going to take, unfortunately for a team. But you know what? You got a great, on the other side, the amazing show of Jaden Daniels came to an end. Philadelphia showed how good they are. And obviously the running back position is being showcased even more, how important it is with Barkley and what he did in that game to take control and you saw how many points they put up. So I think it actually will be a really competitive Super Bowl. I do. I'm going to be rooting for, obviously, the Eagles because my boy Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator there. Brilliant mind, and he's going to be in the Super Bowl, man. And how great would that be if he could get a Super Bowl as an offensive coordinator? But, Ray, what's your thoughts on the two games and who you rooting for in the Super Bowl?
Well, unfortunately, and I wanted to see Buffalo win, but Buffalo, they're kind of reminding me of the when Buffalo went to 4 Super Bowls and lost. I mean, it's like they get there and there's always something that keeps them from winning. So, I mean, I was like you, I was pulling for Buffalo as well. But now that we're at the doorstep of the Super Bowl, I want to see history. I want to see the first three-peat. So that's history in the making. It's never been done before. History in the making.
But guess what? And there's a reason why it hasn't been done before, because it's hard. So you know what?
Exactly.
Right. So you know what? I can disagree with you. I can disagree with you. That's what podcasting is. I say boo to that, and you're like, I want to see history. That's fine. That's what we do. It would be a really boring podcast if I just agreed with Ray all day long.
But I have to interject this because this is something you've been beating me down with this, and I'm kind of swaying your way a little bit. The running back position, watching Saquon, I can see where where you're saying take your guy from out there somewhere out there in the West. I can't remember where he's from. But take the wait. I'm gonna quote. Take the once in a generation running back. But here's the problem, though. Yes. I'm
from Boise. You know that.
Okay. That's right. Boise. Okay, Boise. Okay. I know it was one of them. I knew it was one of those places out west. But no, seriously. After watching how he's just like really taking control of the game, man. But like John said, the NFL is driven by quarterbacks. So you got to get a quarterback. So I don't know if that happens this year. I mean, but then again, we don't even know. I mean, we could guess and speculate, but nobody really knows what the Browns are going to do.
Yeah, real quick, guys. 5 Iron Golf in downtown Cleveland on Euclid Avenue, just a few blocks from here. By the way, ladies' night every Wednesday night to 5 to 8. Ladies are free to go golf over there. And if you use the code Brownie40, you get 40% off your hourly rentals to go there. That's right. Hourly rate. If you want to go, use code Brownies40 for 40% off golf. Who doesn't want that? It's cold. Work on your golf game and do some fun stuff. By the way, if it's cold outside, you want to go check out something else really cool, go check out the Greater Cleveland Aquarium. This place is super cool. This is actually a picture from inside the Shark Tank that you can walk through. We have tickets to give away to folks, so look for those giveaways. But great for taking your children, grandchildren, or if you just want to go check out all the different exhibits of species they have in there, and all the different fish. They have the stingrays. You can actually touch the stingrays in the tank and do some fun stuff. Also, guys, Lady Caroline, the ship that comes right out of Cuyahoga and does a bunch of amazing trips. Go check them out. Very cool. They'll be launching here again real soon, doing trips for lunch or dinner cruises, or if you have a function or you want to cater and rent the boat and do a private event, they're open to that, which is super, super cool. Awesome stuff, and really cool to do those kind of things. And one last shout out we're going to give out to our friends over at Western Reserve Distillers. That's right. This is where you can get that amazing Cleveland Browns whiskey. Sorry, not Cleveland Browns, but here we go. Brownies whiskey. Our whiskey there. Really cool stuff and amazing stuff that you can get there. But you know what? Speaking of amazing things, who doesn't like wine? So here's a little bit about the Here We Go Brownies wines that you can get from Lorello Vineyards, which, by the way, has an amazing Valentine's Day dinner coming up on February 15th if you want to check it out. Or they have their Ice Wine Festival that'll be happening as well. But here's a quick message from them.
Here we go, Brownies Nation. Larry Lorello from Lorello Vineyards. Dustin Cook from Here We Go Brownies. We're here to talk a little bit about Here We Go Brownies wine. Dustin, let us know.
That's right, guys. The season wasn't what we wanted it to be, but the wine is amazing. Platinum-winning, award-winning wine. Here We Go Brownies wine. Come get it here at the winery or go to lorellovineyards.com. And remember, a portion of every single one of these bottles goes to the Greater Cleveland Food Bank to help those that are in need and hungry. That's right. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go.
Woof, woof.
All right, there we go. So guys, like we were saying, amazing stuff. And it looks like we just put up the distillery over there again. Sorry about that, guys. A little technical difficulties, but easy to fix. But Ray, I do want to talk about something really cool. Two things. A couple of our other partners that we're really excited about. You guys have probably seen these guys, We Bleed Ohio. They're an apparel company that have been in the greater Cleveland area for over a decade. We've partnered with those guys to make Here We Go Brownies official t-shirts, hoodies, some really cool stuff. Look forward to that. We're doing a giveaway on our site. And then we're really excited to partner with Primetime Sports. I know, Ray, you're very familiar with Primetime Sports and everything they do in their brand new location in the Great Northern Mall. By the way, I've adopted them as my team. I will always be a Boise State fan because that's where I went to school to the day I died. But they have, not this weekend, but next weekend, all the amazing Will Howard and all the amazing 2024 college football champion Ohio State, the Ohio State Buckeyes will be there in person to see all them, get an autograph, get a picture. And then I believe the following weekend, the rest of the crew will be there. So an opportunity to maybe see 20 guys, right? 20 stars off of that team, a pretty unique thing to do. And then lastly, just want to give a shout out to our friends over at the Barley House, great partners of ours, downtown Cleveland on West 6. Great event this Saturday with Real American Beer. Hulk Hogan in the flesh will be there at 10 o'clock. So come down to the Barley House right in downtown Cleveland. Hulk Hogan will be here with Real American Beer signing stuff. The 12 packs, you'll be able to meet him, get a picture, get stuff signed. And the real cool thing is he'll be here for Monday Night Raw that'll be taking place at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. So, Ray, there's a lot going on, Ray. There's a lot going on. We've got a lot to get to coming up in the next couple months. We're excited about 2025, Ray. We've talked about this. This is the year that we really we're going to have a lot of fun this year. That's just plain and simple. We're partnering with Stadium Mustard to go to the draft up in Green Bay. Look for more things to that. That's going to be really exciting to go up because to me, this is a consequential draft, right? This is a big draft for the Cleveland Browns, and what they do in the first and second rounds are going to be very key to the success of this team for years to come. So a lot of exciting stuff to go happening there. But Ray, we got the Senior Bowl, all those things going on. Some quarterbacks have been out there. Some of them have been getting attention. Anything stand out to you? I did find it kind of interesting that Tony Grossi had said that Stefanski wasn't at the game, and then it comes out that he was at the game, and he did meet with Shedeur Sanders. So I think sometimes what you see is not real, and so it's kind of funny, like you see these stories, and then the real truth comes out. But obviously, Andrew Berry and those guys are down there. What's your take on some of the stuff that you've seen from the tape on some of these guys? And then I have one comment on one guy that they said looked like he checked all the boxes. Not Shedeur Sanders, but just curious from all the early stuff coming out of those games.
Well, and we'll see a lot more when they do the combine. But
right.
A couple things that stood out for me was that running back from, I believe, Arizona State. And he had a big bowl game. I can't think of what his name was though, but he seems like one of those Swiss Army guys. You could put him at tight end, you could put him in the slot, you could put him he could block, he could be your feature back.
Right.
I mean, they're calling him poor man's McCaffrey. So
right.
I don't know. And being that we probably, if we do take a quarterback in the first round, then that once in a generation quarterback probably won't be there for us in the second round. So, and I know, we're going to need a running back to at least spell Chubb's sometime, because I just think Chubb. Yeah, I didn't think Chubb was all the way back last year. But anyway, no, I that was the one guy, and I apologize, I can't remember what his name was. Arizona State.
Scatterboot, yeah. Okay,
yeah. But then again, we'll see a lot more. I'm more of a combine guy because it's a lot of guys don't get in the game, so you don't get to see them. Whereas at the combine, everybody is measured, everybody runs, everybody jumps. So between the combine and then free agency, I'm excited. I'm excited. Matter of fact, let's hurry up and get the Super Bowl over with so we can get into the offseason.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. And one of the things that stood out was Dart, the Ole Miss quarterback, said he made all the right throws in that game. He looked like he was pro ready. Even so, Comment said kind of does the wide zone offense kind of like Stefanski likes, and if he's there at the top of the second round, then you aren't going to pick a quarterback. And, God forbid, let's call it what it is, the Raiders move up to number 1 and they make the trade. Well, you can't control that, right? You can't control what the Tennessee Titans do. You can only control what you can do at number 2. And then you do get someone like Travis Hunter, or you get the great defensive player out of Penn State. Now you got to take the best player available, right? Unless, again, the phone rings again and somebody goes, oh, by the way, we're going to give you our first round pick and another second round on this. Then you got to start listening, right? Like maybe you say, well, maybe we take Genty at 9 then, or 8, and then we start collecting all of our picks, because we also need offensive tackle and offensive line stuff. So you might need 2 or 3 picks in that second round to get the kind of talent that's going to be starters on your football team, right? Because we know some of these guys, Joel Petonio is not going to play forever, right? Some of these guys on the offensive line just aren't going to be there forever. So you have to go get a guy like that, right, in the second round that could plug in and be a starter for you in the next couple of years. So I think they're going to have to make some important decisions. But speaking of the combine, and this has been happening more frequently in the last couple of years, what do you think about some of these guys that don't go to the combine and opt out of it? I mean, there's been players that have done this and then, do their thing at their school, right? Like when all the scouts come there and they'll do something at their school visit, their pro day where everybody comes and, sees them. What's your opinion on that when these guys like, I don't want to risk getting hurt or pulling something, so I'm going to opt out of the combine? I'm just curious what your opinion on that is.
Well, it seems nowadays everybody gets a grade. I mean, halfway through the season, pretty much if you're coming out, the grades start coming out, and by the end of the season, everybody has pretty much a good idea of where they're slotted at, to be picked. So those guys that are like the top 10 picks, I mean, they're pretty much like, okay, why, like you just said, why risk an injury or anything when I already know that if I don't do anything else, I'm gonna be top 10 pick. So, I mean,
they already know they're going, right? So
right,
basically, if they just, you know, yeah, that's just the way it is. So
right. So, and then you have the guys that have something to prove, or maybe a little on the bubble. Those are the guys that come in and they're workout warriors. But then that's not always the best either, because you got guys that who they do nothing but train to look good in the combine, and it's crazy because you got people taking them at a certain position because of what they did at the combine, and then you get them in training camp, and it's like, wait a minute, something's not right. It's almost like fool's gold.
Right. Well, yeah. And if you look at someone like Will Howard, right, most people had him as a third, fourth rounder. And after what he did in the championship run, they're like, I mean, he's a top of the second round guy now, right? He's in that discussion now because they're like, well, look what he did. He made a championship run, right? And he checked all the boxes, and he was the cool leader in the room, and he can lead men. And I think there's that intangible that doesn't get talked about enough, of that maturity of quarterback. And you think about it, he was at Kansas State and he's moved around. So he's had a lot of adversity, that being Will Howard. But, there's a lot to these guys being seasoned, right? And having lots of reps. So when they get to the NFL and the lights are on and they're under the big lights of the NFL, it isn't too big of a moment for them. And it's interesting. I mean, I loved our interview with John Wooten. And it kind of hit me. I've not, I haven't been on this. I'm one of those guys that doesn't want to take a quarterback at number 2, and I want to collect assets because I'm worried that we're going to miss once again at quarterback. And, Ken Carman said to me, and he kind of pushed back. He goes, just because it hasn't worked before, what makes you think it won't work now, right? Like having that mentality almost defeats the purpose of thinking, well, we've screwed it up every other time. What makes, well, you could say the opposite to that. Just because we screwed it up doesn't mean we can hit the jackpot and get it right. So, it was interesting. John Wooten has a very unique perspective. He has seen this individual from his childhood as a young kid in Texas, going through high school football with his dad and all that. And so you're right. Someone like Shedeur Sanders, now that I sit here and think this out loud, the bright lights aren't too big for him because his dad is who? Prime time. So it's like the lights are never going to be too big for Sanders, nor if the pressure is on him to perform. I think he will be the guy that he will have a broken arm going to, I don't know. He just seems like he'll be that guy. Just some quick thoughts on that, Ray.
And, and having Tom Brady as a mentor while he was in high school, that didn't hurt him at all either.
No, I mean, he's been around greats, right? Let's just call that as a child, as in and into his young adultness. He has had greatness around him to lead him in a positive light to be the best player and person he can possibly be. And it's interesting, like, and it's funny, like even the little things that Deion Sanders does, and it shows why he's such a good leader of men, is he brought up a really interesting point. And he said, when one of those guys that's on our football team goes in the portal, he goes, they quit on us. They quit on us and our ideals and everything that we do. So you know what he said? No, you don't get to use the workout room. You don't get to go have lunch in our cafeteria anymore once you enter that portal because you quit on us. So you don't get free lunch. You don't get a free workout. You're not a Colorado Buffalo anymore. So I thought that was really, kind of telling. Even little things like that, like, no, you're done. Like you've told us you're done, right? Like there is nothing. So, yeah, but it just goes to show you his accountability, even at the highest level. And even the smallest things are like, no, you're done. You're out. Like you've showed your cards, right? We know what you're doing. So I thought that was very interesting.
Right.
No, Ray, always a pleasure, guys. You never know who we may have next week. Could be a surprise. You just never know. Look for some great more interviews coming up. But man, what an amazing night with John Wooten. I'll remember this for the rest of my life. to sit here and talk with Browns royalty and all the great things that he had to share about being a great Brown. And I think it was really cool that he wanted to end the show and made sure that we knew that he was a Cleveland Brown for life. I thought that was super cool that he wanted to get that out to our audience. So very cool. Ray, always a pleasure, always a great time, and go Browns.
Go Browns. See you when I see you.